Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Today is a special live Q&A where we're going to focus exclusively on how to get shippers as a freight broker or freight agent. So that's what we're going to talk about today. For those of you that don't know me or just joining, first of all, for those of you catching this on replay, hit me in the comments with hashtag replay. Love to hear from my replay folks. I know sometimes you can't make it live. That's cool. Appreciate anytime you can join me here in my weekly Freight Broker Bootcamp lives. For those of you that don't know me or you're just getting to know me, my name is Dennis Brown. I've been an entrepreneur for way too long, close to 30 years now. And I've built 4 multi-million-dollar companies in 4 different industries. One of those companies was a logistics company, a freight brokerage. I started in 2003, grew that to over $80 million a year, was very fortunate and blessed, sold that company. But I'm also the owner of freightbrokerbootcamp.com, which is the most cost-effective and comprehensive online freight broker and freight agent training program. Trained over 10,000 students through that program. So if you guys are new to the feed and you're just getting started, you're definitely going to want to check that out. Again, freightbrokerbootcamp.com. So thank you so much for being here. As you're joining the stream, hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. I'm going to try to do some shout outs before we get started, and then we will get the show on the road. So we got a bunch of people joining. That's awesome. I did not send the reminder email out until literally about 3 minutes ago. So I apologize for that. So we're probably not going to have as many people joining us right here at the beginning. We'll probably have a bunch more people that'll join throughout the live. And then, of course, most people will catch this on replay. So what do we got? Let's see. We got Russell from Charleston, South Carolina. Welcome. Diego, good morning. Hugo from California. My neighbor, Tim Quirk from Western New York, Rochester area. Howdy, buddy. Zoran from Macedonia. Hugo from Fort Fontana, California. Joe Momighty, as always, from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So we got people from all over the country. And I'm sure we'll have a bunch more. We usually have a bunch from Texas, and we usually have some from California, and we usually have some from, South America, Europe, Australia. It's really funny because when I started this Freight Broker Bootcamp back in 2009, when I launched the online course, I never thought in my wildest dreams, number one, that I'd have it's probably closer to 20,000 students by now. But number two, I've had students in over 16 different countries, which kind of blows my mind, but cool. In the same respect, very, very cool. So let me just check something really quick. I want to make sure my audio is right. Okay, good. All right, so we're all good. All right, so a few more shout outs. We got Kevin Perry from Raleigh, North Carolina. Ashley from Atlanta, Georgia. We've got Russell joining us. We got a LinkedIn user from Cape Cod, Mass. We got Harvey from Hector, Arizona. Welcome, Harvey. Gary from Longview, Texas. Danielle from Columbia, South Carolina. Juan from San Antonio. Corey from Billings, Montana. Shubham from New York. Steve Rogers from New York. Welcome. All right, cool. So about 30 more seconds, we'll get the ball rolling. Today is a special live Q&A because I'm not going to get up here and train on a specific topic. But what I am going to do is I'm going to open it up to you, the audience, to ask me questions. Now hold your questions. Okay, hold your questions until I give you the cue. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the feed and I'm never going to be able to see them. Okay, so hold your questions. But this is a live Q&A. And I want to try to dedicate this Q&A to how to get shippers as a freight broker or freight agent. This is where most people struggle, right? Setting up your freight brokerage, authority through the FMCSA and getting your home office and setting up your load boards and learning how to rate and dispatching and sourcing carriers with load boards. Those sorts of things are very, very important. Don't get me wrong. And those are the things that I focus on very heavily in the Freight Broker Bootcamp. But what I have found after over a decade of doing this is that most people struggle after that. They get their business set up and they struggle with getting new shippers. Now, there's a variety of reasons why, and we'll probably touch on some of those today. But I do want to talk about that today. And what I do also want to talk about, and the reason why this is a special live Q&A is because tomorrow, Tuesday, the 30th of January, I'm going to be reopening enrollment for my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. Now, that Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is a 5-week freight broker sales coaching program where I work with you, teach you my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, tools, and my entire system. And then I help you implement those in your business to help you grow, whether you're a startup or you're an existing broker or agent. That's going to be opening for enrollment tomorrow. So if you're not on the wait list and you're part of that, or you're a part of that wait list and you haven't submitted and you haven't replied back with your application, because this is by application only right now, okay? So because I have so many people that get on the wait list and I have so many people that are interested, it sells out every single time, okay? So yeah, you got to get on the wait list. You can get on the wait list. It's absolutely free to get on the wait list. You'll be the first to be notified when it launches tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Okay, that's the plan right now, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So freightbrokerbootcamp.com/wait list. All right, so get on that wait list. We've probably got a bunch of people in the stream right now, whether they be on YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever they're at, Facebook, that have already went through the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. So I've had a lot. I think we've put, well, it's over 700, maybe close to 800 students that have went through that program. That's just the Sales Accelerator, because I've only had that for the last couple of years. And that's, again, more of a coaching program where, you know, when I do the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator live, that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow, which is again, that live coaching program where I work with you and help navigate through that entire process. So today we are going to do live Q&A. So if you guys have a question, by the way, I have to leave a little bit early because my wife is not available today. She's going to pick up my daughter. I have to pick up my daughter at 1 sharp. So I'm going to be cutting this a little bit early. And depending upon the number of questions, maybe I can come back in later and try to answer them in some of the threads or in the feed themselves. But yeah, so let's do this. Let's dive into the Q&A. Again, today, what I really want to try to focus on is the how to get customers, how to get shippers as a freight broker or a freight agent. So I'm going to focus my energy towards those questions. So if you ask a question about something else, if I have time, I'll get to it later. If I don't, please don't be offended. Okay. So what I want you guys to start thinking about is sales mindset and getting past the fear of sales. I want you to think about how to fill your sales funnel, right? Whether that be cold calling or cold emailing or using LinkedIn. I want you to think about how to follow up like a pro, right? What the proper way to follow up is, overcoming common objections like price and we're happy with who we're working with, or we don't do business with brokers or whatever. Send me some info, right? Those sorts of objections. And how to close the sale, which is really, really important, right? I've jotted down a few notes here because I want to make sure that we touch on some of this. One of the things that nobody ever talks about is customer development and retention, and a system for turning a customer that gives you their first load into a customer that you're eventually doing 6 or 7 figures with, right? And then the last part of the cake here is leveraging sales intelligence, leveraging sales technology, I should say. Okay. Freight broker sales technology. I've been spending some time on that. We've talked about recently, we've talked about Lucia, and we've talked about Apollo, and we've talked some other stuff. So those are some of the things I really want to focus on today. If it's anything to do with any of those components or anything to do with getting shippers, I'm in. Okay. That's where I want to spend our time. So without further ado, feel free, drop your questions in the chat box. Today, we are focusing on how to get shippers as a freight broker or freight agent. I will try to pick the best questions, answer those questions so that everybody can benefit from this live. All right, cool. So what do we got? Let's see what we got. Boom, 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 boom. Who's going to be first? Who's going to be the first to ask questions? Harvey's been through both programs. Amazing. I know you have, Harvey. I remember you were in my last cohort for the Sales Accelerator. We had a great time. Okay. How do I make a freight agent? Hugo, be more specific. How do I make a freight agent? How do I become a freight agent? How do I hire a freight agent? Be more specific if you could, because I'm not quite sure what you're looking for. Yeah, fire away. Okay, cool. Great question, Russell. What are the 4 most common objections that you hear? All right. So the four most common objections you hear as a freight broker or freight agent are: your price is too high, we're happy with our current provider, we don't do business with brokers, or kind of a smokescreen objection, which is send me some info, right? So those are the four most common objections that you're going to run into. Now, there are others, okay? Don't get me wrong. But I would tell you that probably 80+% of the time, those are the objections that you're going to get, especially on early sales outreach and sales dialogue, whether that be through email, through LinkedIn, through phone calls, through face-to-face. Okay, so those are probably the most common that I would see you'd run into. But good question, Russell. Thank you. What else do we got? Okay, Giovanna. Giovanna Hampton. Giovanna, I got really good news for you. Okay? Really good news. But I'm not going to be able to give you the full and complete answer till tomorrow morning. So you got to be on the wait list. All right? I have previously, here's what I'm going to tell you. Last time I launched this program, the live program was $1,997, one-time cost. And my plan, listen though, before you tune out, listen. My plan and what I told everybody this time is that I was going to increase the price to $4,997. Hold tight, listen. I've decided not to do that. And here's what I can tell you. The price is going to be significantly less tomorrow morning, if you enroll tomorrow morning, than it was even the last time that I ran it, which again was $1,997. Okay. So I can't give you the exact price yet. You'll know in the morning. Make sure you're on the wait list. Make sure you complete the application, and you'll be the first to know. You'll be the first to enroll. And I have to do that because, again, spots are limited for this. I can't put 500 people in this program. It's a coaching program. I would never be able to service everybody. Okay. I'd never be able to serve everybody in that type of environment. Just too many people. So I've gotten it down to kind of a science here. I know how many people I can handle. And so we're going to cap it out. It's limited. And I hope that I get a chance to work with you guys. You know, I hope you guys enroll. But again, you got to be on the wait list. Okay. If you're not on the wait list, I'm going to tell you right now, the chances of you being able to get enrolled are slim to none, and slims out to lunch. Okay. I'm just letting you know now. All right. What do we got? Okay, so Hugo clarified his question. He says, I am a freight agent, but I am a freight broker, but I need a freight agent. Okay, so what you're looking to do as a broker is you're looking to hire agents. All right, so because this kind of ties back to sales, I'm going to answer it for you. So there are a few ways that I personally went out and hired agents when I closed the business, or when I sold the business, I should say. I think we had about 70 offices, okay, around the United States. They were all independent contractors, all agents. That's the model that I built, okay? So there was a few ways we did that. Number one, we used LinkedIn very heavily, okay? So LinkedIn became one of our primary tools for finding and engaging and developing relationships with potential agents. Number two, we would place job ads on places like Jobs and Logistics or Indeed.com. So we would do job ads. And number three is referrals. So when we found an agent that was happy with us, we would pay a really good referral fee for anybody that they would refer us to, right? So if they referred, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was thousands of dollars in the event that if they referred an agent, that agent came on and then they ultimately worked out after, 90 days or 6 months. I think we had at least a $1,000 plus or more referral fee that we paid to them. I don't remember the exact thing because it's been a long time now, but we paid a referral fee. So those are the three: LinkedIn, job boards that we would place job ads, and then referrals. So that would be what I would suggest. But before you do all that, here's what you have to do if you're a broker. You have to create a product that is good enough for a broker to want. So everybody wants experienced agents with a book of business, right? That's what you want to hire because you want instant cash flow. But the problem is you probably don't have a product right now, or you may not have a product right now that appeals to them. So you have to build the product that's designed specific for whoever you're targeting. If you're targeting experienced brokers who have a book of business, you have to ask yourself the difficult question: what do I have to offer them? Right? What can I offer them other than just a motor carrier number, an MC number, right? A broker number. So a lot of times when you're first getting started, you'll be able to attract people who don't have experience or a book of business, or maybe they have experience and they don't have a book of business. Those are sometimes a lot easier to attract. So sometimes, you got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find the prince or the princess, right? And so ultimately, that's kind of what I would suggest. I hope that helps. If you have a follow-up question, let me know. Favor Scrubs asks, is it a good idea to go to local warehouses to try to get their business? Well, local warehouses may either be a freight forwarder or a freight broker already, okay? They may or may not. A lot of times a warehouse also has their freight forwarder authority or their freight broker authority. Most times it's their freight forwarder authority, okay? So you could potentially, and one of two things would happen. You would either, if it was a freight forwarder, then you would kind of co-broker with them. They would be your customer, right? And you would help support and service them wherever they have needs or pain or demand. If it's a freight broker, possibly, but I don't highly recommend it. You really want to go direct to shippers. So the other way to do it is if it's not the freight forwarder, then maybe you can get referrals, right? I mean, there are some shippers, obviously they have their own warehouses. So you could go direct to a shipper who has a warehouse, but I think you were really talking more about transportation providers. So yeah, if it's a freight forwarder, you could potentially work with them, or you could get referrals. And of course, if a shipper has their own warehouse, then it only makes sense, right? Because if you're going to work with companies that are local, if that's your niche, then that's definitely where you want to start spending some time. So I hope that helps. Question from Danielle Gauss. What is a great marketing schedule? What are good days to see shippers, days to make calls? Okay. Well, I'm not sure about a marketing schedule, but a sales schedule. Marketing to me is different than sales. Okay. So they're a little different. We're going to focus on sales because that's what this is about. So it really kind of depends. If your niche is local, and you want to go out and press the flesh and you want to see people face to face and you want to knock on a lot of doors and you want to go to a lot of docks and you want to do it that way, that's a great way to do it. If you're comfortable with it and your target market is within a reasonable distance and you can touch a lot of people, I think that's a great way to do it, especially if you combine that with phone calls and emails, right? Having a multi-touch point outreach strategy, which is what I teach in the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. It literally will double or triple your connection rate and the contacts that you're able to make. So the schedule, the most difficult days to get people on the phone, historically speaking, are Mondays and Fridays. Okay? Just because Mondays and Fridays in transportation have a tendency to be where if you're in the transportation industry, you're putting out a lot of fires. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be calling on them. I'm just letting you know to set the proper expectations. Mondays and Fridays have a tendency to be the toughest days to make contact, especially if you're cold calling or cold prospecting. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that leaves it kind of wide open. As far as times, they're going to, any time of day is going to be a time when you're going to have to be willing to make a cold outreach, whether that be through email or through phone or face-to-face. But what I found is that, if you can sometimes show up a little bit before the normal work hours or just a little bit after the normal work hours, you will make a higher connection rate on those show ups only because, they may be in there a little bit early trying to get some work done and their phone just hasn't really started buzzing yet. Right. So those are a few ideas. I think ultimately you're going to have to, this is a question I get a lot. And what I tell people is ultimately this, when you first start up as a freight broker or a freight agent, 90+% of your time needs to be spent prospecting. That's just the way it is. Whether you're doing email, phone, face-to-face, LinkedIn, or all of the above, 90% of your time needs to be spent doing prospecting. You need to fill the sales funnel, right? That sales funnel is where, think about it. You have a big funnel and you're putting all the potential prospects into the top. You're making a lot of phone calls. And then at the end, at the bottom of that funnel, it narrows down. And then out of that drips a customer here, a customer there, a customer here, a customer there, right? And so you really got to fill that funnel. So you got to spend a lot of time doing that. And that's really the secret to a quick start, right? Is having, number one, the right approach, and number two, taking massive action and consistent action to fill that funnel. All right. So I hope that helps. Facebook user, are you talking about customer routed? If this is customer routed, let me know. Come back into the comments. If not, be more specific. Okay. Question is, currently my team is working on cold calling. The response they are getting from manufacturers is that they have their own carriers or they have their own fleet of trucks. Yeah, right. That goes into the objection of we're happy with our current providers. So you need to learn how to overcome that. You need to learn how to address that. But here's the thing, what you have to understand, the problem that you're having, okay, and getting that objection, because sometimes they're probably telling you the truth, but in other times it's a smokescreen just to get you off the phone. And so the biggest challenge that I find people have that are getting these objections in the first phone call like this is the fact that they're not making a good first impression when they get on the phone, right? They haven't differentiated themselves, right? You have to have what I call a compelling sales hook. You have to be different, right? That old cold call script, and I don't know what your cold call script is, but hey, the cold call script of, hey, we've got trucks in your area and I just thought I'd give you a call and see if we might be able to help you with some of your loads. That's dead. That's garbage. Don't use it. It's junk. And if anybody teaches you that, run for the freaking hills, because they've never made any money in this business. Okay. So you have to, not in the long term, right? I mean, you can stumble over a shipper here and there, but you're not going to ever build a real business, a highly successful business with that pitch. And that's the problem. Everybody thinks that every cold call pitch or every cold call script is the same, and they're not. You got to understand, if a shipper has heard that sales script 10, 20, 50, 100 times, every time they hear it, it has a worse impression, meaning they're more pissed off that you called them after they've heard that same pitch the 100th time than they were when they heard it the first time. I think we could all agree at that. So you have to learn how to create a compelling sales hook, right? So this is a big part of what I do in the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, right? In the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, right? And again, get on the wait list if you're not on the wait list yet. The Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, that compelling, creating a compelling sales hook is so important to help differentiate yourself from everybody else they've talked to that day, that week, that month. And if you can do that, number one, you can capture their attention, right? Because that's really what we got to do. We've got about 3 to 5 seconds or maybe less to try to capture their attention so that you can then make a good first impression, and you can then ask some really good questions, and you can then build enough of a rapport and relationship that you can either get a freight quote or schedule another call or schedule a face-to-face meeting or whatever it is that your sales, cycle or process is set up as. But it's critically important. And I think that is one of the biggest things that freight brokers and freight agents struggle with, is creating a compelling sales hook, right? How to be different, how to sound different. If you sound like everybody else, don't be surprised if you get the Heisman or you get the hang up. Hope that helps. Let me find where I was. I got lost here. Harvey asks, what about the objection that we're not taking on any new brokers at this time? Yeah, That's a we're happy with our current provider. It's just a different version of we're happy with our current provider, but it's actually a little bit more of a buying signal than we're happy with our current provider, because they're saying we're not taking on new brokers at this time. So the natural question is, a few questions that come to mind for me are, well, Harvey, I can totally appreciate that. And I'll be extremely honest with you. Most people might take this as a blow off, but me personally, okay, I just have two questions for you, if you wouldn't mind. Number one, when's the last time you added a new broker or a new provider? And then number two is, when do you think you guys will start considering or opening up opportunities to do business with new brokers? Because I'm trying to gather some sales intelligence, and along the ride, I'm trying to continue that dialogue and build some rapport. And so, again, you cannot, if somebody doesn't have a need, there is no sale. Okay. They have to have a need. You can't sell. If I've got a bottle of sparkling ice, black cherry flavored sparkling water, right? And I'm happy, and I've got a bottle of water, and I only drink one bottle of water a day, and you offer me another bottle of water, right? And I don't need it, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to spend money on something that I don't need. And so the same thing goes for freight brokerage. Same thing goes for everything. There has to be a need. There has to be a demand. There has to be some pain, right? And so, Harvey, you went through my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, right? So some of these objections that we've talked about, you know how to handle those. If you can't recall, log back into the online course, the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, and definitely refresh yourself. And beyond that, if you need additional help, make sure you hit us up at support, because you're a member of Freight Broker Bootcamp, so we're here for you. Ken Mumford asks, what do you think the success percentage is going door to door on foot? Well, I guess it depends on how you define success. If success to you is getting a customer that ships a load with you, well, a lot of that depends upon your abilities to do what I just talked about, which is to be different, to stand out, to build rapport, right? To be able to identify the need, right? So ultimately, just because they're buying transportation doesn't mean that they need you. Your job in these cold calls is to start developing a relationship. See, the problem everybody has is they're so focused on the conversion, they're so focused on the transaction that they forget about the relationship. It takes time. You have to develop a relationship. Now, some people, within 2 or 3 or 4 communications, phone, face-to-face, email, or otherwise, you could start doing business with them. Others, I've had communications with shippers for over a year before they did business with me. Now, we weren't talking every day. Sometimes we weren't even talking every month, but we had conversations, dozens of conversations over an extended period of time. And so, it's chess, it's not checkers. That's what you have to remember. So I can't give you a conversion number because I don't know what your process looks like. But I can tell you that face to face, you will typically get a little bit less rejection than you will over the phone. And the reason being is because it's harder for someone to reject you over face to face. You have body language, you have that. It's easier to build rapport in a relationship face to face than it is over the phone. The advantage to the phone is that you can touch a lot more people quicker, right? I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm simply saying that I think they're both valuable. If you can do face to face, and you can do the phone, and you can do email, and you can do LinkedIn, those 4 channels, if you can create a multi-touch point outreach strategy and a sales cadence that's dedicated to high conversions, and conversions being having a real conversation, getting an opportunity to quote, and possibly being able to start doing business with them and working and moving their freight, I think that's what you should be shooting for. So I hope that helps. Okay, question from Jomo Money. As a new freight broker, is it wise to target mega companies first or focus on smaller companies with easier gatekeepers? My personal opinion, people will argue with me about this, but my thought process, if you're a newer freight broker or freight agent and you're just starting to navigate getting getting your first shippers, right? And you're not even doing 50,000 a month in business yet, right? Which isn't a lot of business. You should be focused on small to medium-sized shippers. You should not be going after Pepsi. You should not be going after Unilever. You should not be going after these big brands. Okay. You shouldn't be going after the big brands because number one, the competition is higher in the big brands. Number two, the complexity, right, of navigating the sales process is more complex. Number three, they need you less than smaller companies. Smaller companies need you more than bigger companies do. Believe it or not, even though they have more demand, smaller companies compete with big companies for capacity and for assets. And so all the big trucking companies want to do business with the big companies. And all the big brokerages want to do business with all the big companies. So they dedicate their resources towards those enterprise clients. And they kind of leave the small to medium-sized clients, behind in the dust. And so ultimately what ends up happening is that it becomes a low-hanging fruit, particularly for startups. So that's where I would go. Good question, Jomo. Thank you. Congratulations, Wayne. Just became an agent for Armstrong Transport. They've been around for a long time. Good company as far as, everything I've ever heard. Never done business with them, but they sound like a good company. Congrats. Okay, question from Jeremy. How do you navigate pricing, bidding when the lane markets give you one price and the shipper is undercutting? Okay, so number one, if you're trying to use the rating tools built into load boards, okay, and that's your source for rating, you're automatically behind the 8 ball and you're in big trouble, okay? That data, in my personal opinion, is a starting point. It's not an end point. Having that information has value, don't get me wrong. But the most accurate spot market rates that you are going to get is the rates that you get directly from a carrier on that day. If I have a load moving tomorrow and I talk to a carrier today, a load moving tomorrow from Buffalo to Atlanta on a van, okay? And let's say that carrier quotes me $2,000. I'm just running a number, $2,000. And I talked to 4 other carriers, and one's 1,800, one's 1,900, one's 2,000, and one's 2,100. Okay. I have an idea that for somewhere in and around 1,900 to $2,000, I can move that load, right? So I got 4 carriers. They're all in that range. One's not 2,900 and the other one's 3,900 and one is 2,000. I'm not picking the lowest. I'm kind of getting a sense of where the middle is. Where's the market based on spot market? I know that I could take that 1,900, mark it up a couple $100, give an all-in quote of $2,100, and I'm going to have a very high likelihood, high probability of being in the market. Now, I may not be the cheapest, okay? Understand something. That's never been my goal. If a shipper says that I have to be the cheapest in order to do business with them, I explain to them why I'm not a good fit and I exit stage left because I'm not interested in being the cheapest. That's not, I don't want to be the Walmart of freight brokers. And I strongly suggest that you're not either, right? Don't focus on price, focus on value because that's really what smart shippers want. So, I just don't do business with companies that are just heavy duty price shoppers. They need to be focused on service and relationship and value as opposed to just price. And the way you do that is to differentiate yourself, build strong rapport, use social proof of how you've already done business with these other clients and why they're willing to pay you more. And you'll be surprised. So I hope that helps. Thanks, Jeremy. Jim Hand. What is the best voicemail script? By the way, Jim Hand has been around in this community and has been a broker. Actually, he's an agent now for a very long time. So good guy. Jim was actually a part of a coaching program I had a long time ago called My Inner Circle. We had a lot of fun. Jim's a super sharp guy. So thank you for being here. I know you're a busy guy. Question is, what is the best voicemail script? The best. Okay. What's the best voicemail script? So the best voicemail script is the script that gets the call back. I mean, I'm not being funny, right? So the art of voicemail is relatively simple. It follows hand in hand with my with how I teach in my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator how to create a compelling sales hook. Whether it's email, whether it's voicemail, whether it's over the phone or face to face, you have to have a compelling sales hook. The difference with email is you have to deliver that sales hook very concisely, very short, right? They're not going to read these big long paragraphs. It should be very, very short. I'm sorry, that's email. In voicemail, you can't be really long, right? You got to be relatively short. But the secret is, I apologize, I got off track there. But the secret is, you introduce yourself, but you don't talk about your company. Hi, this is Dennis. And then you give your sales hook. We help companies like to do this, XYZ. Curious how you're handling that, if there's an opportunity to discuss, and then leave your phone number and contact information at the end. Don't leave it at the beginning, leave it at the end, okay? Because you want them to listen to you, right? Listen to the whole voicemail. Let me see, I think I have my voicemail. Let me see something. Just hold on one second. I think I have a voicemail script in here. Boom. Hold on, I'm scrolling. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so it goes intro, sales hook, call to action, contact info. Okay, so it goes intro, sales hook, call to action, contact info. So, hi, Mr. Prospect. The reason for the call: we work with logistics managers in the steel industry to help them spend less time sourcing and negotiating and dispatching carriers and more time supporting their customer needs. I was wondering if I could get a few minutes of your time to discuss how you're balancing this issue and if there's any other way that we can make your job easier. Again, my name is Dennis Brown, 716-555-1212. Dennis Brown with XYZ Logistics, 716-555-1212. So use that framework. You can't use that voicemail, obviously, because yours is going to be different, but use that framework as a way to create a compelling voicemail. So hope that helps. Good question, Jim. Thank you. Okay, so I won't be able to give you the full, in this answer here. So I'd like to add agents. I'd like to understand better about hiring, how it works, and what the percentage will be. So most agents get paid between 50 and 70% of the gross profit on any given load. Newer agents get closer to the 50%. More experienced agents with a book of business get the 60 plus. Okay. So that's the commission. So as far as hiring goes, it's like hiring anybody else, right? You need to source them either inbound or outbound. You're either doing outreach to them like you would a shipper, but they're an agent. So same sort of concepts apply. Or you're doing inbound, which is some sort of a job ad, right? And if it's a referral, it's even easier than normal cold outbound. And at that point, what you're trying to do, depending upon who your target market is, if you're looking for people who have no experience and you're going to work with them and train them and teach them and bring them into the fold, or whether they're experienced agents, your interview is going to be a little bit different. But what you're trying to identify is, do they have the traits, the skills, and the characteristics that you think would fit well within your organization? It's just like any other interview, right? And so act as if you're hiring them as an employee inside. There's really no difference. You're trying to find people that have the skills, the characteristics, the attributes, and that you think they'll fit into your culture. And you're trying to hire people that have the highest probability of success. And so if you have follow-up questions, I'll be happy to answer, but I'm not sure where you want me to go from there. Question from Olivia. Is it smarter to go into an independent freight agent position with my personal LLC? I can't give you legal advice, but if I were an agent, I would set up my own LLC. Couple reasons. Tax benefits, as well as liability. I limit my liability. God forbid something were to happen. I'm an independent freight agent working under my personal name as a freight broker, and we move a load and that load has a catastrophic accident and somebody dies. Okay. Let's hope that never happens. Right. But the point is that if that happened, and you don't have an LLC or a corporation, and you get named in a lawsuit in some way, shape, or form, they can go after all your personal assets. If you have a corporation, an LLC, your liability is typically limited to just the assets of that company. And we know that as a freight agent, you're not going to have any assets in the company because you don't own anything. It's just a corporate shell to run the business through. So that would be my suggestion. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I can't give you legal advice, but that's what I would do personally and why. Question from Latoya. Can you be a broker just from load boards instead of relying on getting shippers if you don't plan on being a large broker company? Well, here's the thing. Okay. If you're trying to be a broker and you're trying to use load boards to do it, you're probably not going to succeed because the two most frequent people, the load boards are dominated by carriers and brokers. So as a broker, you're not going to be able to get a load from a broker. Okay. Definitely not from a load board because double brokering is frowned upon. Right now, if you have a strategic relationships with a broker, you can do co-brokering, but you're not going to be able to pull loads off the load board and build a business that way. Now, if you happen to find a few shippers that are on a load board, say some sort of shipper specific load board, or you see them on there, the problem with trying to do business with those shippers is the reason why they're there is because their biggest concern is price. And so you're going to have to try to be the cheapest and try to squeeze out money, right? Smart shippers outsource their transportation. Cheap shippers try to go on the load board and source direct. It's just the way it is. I mean, I can't put it any other way. Okay. So my personal opinion is you'll never build a small brokerage or any brokerage if you try to take that approach. Here's the thing about building a business. It involves getting out of your comfort zone. It involves risk, and it involves in freight brokerage and freight agency, particularly, it involves the need to be able to sell. Okay. You need to learn to sell. It is the number one reason why. One, I created the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, and two, I'm reopening it. Okay. You need to learn number one, you need to learn the correct sales mindset. One of the biggest problems people have, and this may be you, is a fear of the phone, a fear of rejection, getting past that mindset component, right? The next thing is they need to learn how to fill their sales funnel, whether that be cold calling or cold emailing or LinkedIn or face-to-face. You need to have a system for filling that sales funnel. Then you need to learn to follow up, right? You need to have a system that allows you to follow up like a pro and not look like a schmuck. Then you need to learn how to overcome objections, right? Those common objections. And then you need to learn how to close the sale without feeling slimy or having them think you're a used car salesman. And then you need to learn how to retain and develop clients, right? So you can turn a customer that gave you one load into 6 or 7 figures. And then you need to learn how to leverage sales technology. That is the framework of my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. That's the entire framework. That's exactly all. Now, there's a lot of things we have to unpack in there, but that's the exact framework of my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. So if you need help with any or all of those things, you got to get on the wait list. It's that simple. Okay. We're going to be opening enrollment tomorrow at 9 a.m. I would not be shocked if it sells out tomorrow. All the spots are limited. I would not be surprised if it sells out tomorrow. I've had it sell out in just over a day or two, somewhere between 24 and 48 hours. And it's sold out. Most times it's within a couple, 2 to 3 days, right? It sells out, depends upon the limits that I put on it, depends upon the time of year. But right now at the beginning of the year, people are always excited and ready and want to learn. And I'm excited and ready and want to help. And so get on the wait list. That's all I can tell you. Let me keep track of time here. Hold on a minute. I have 4 minutes. Okay, I have 4 minutes, then I got to go. Let me see what we got here. Question from Carolyn. What is the likelihood of getting hired as an agent with no experience? The likelihood of getting hired as an agent with no experience is 100% if you do what I tell you. It's 100%. Now, the likelihood of you getting hired as an agent with no experience the first time you apply for an agent position is probably not good. If you follow my process, and here's what I'm going to tell you, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/blog. Okay, that's my blog. And type in the search box on my blog where you can search the articles, search get hired. Okay, you're going to see an entire blog post and a video and a training that walks you through step by step by step on how to get hired as a freight agent with no experience. Okay, if you follow that process, it's almost an absolute certainty that you're going to get hired. Now, will you be successful? I don't know. Okay, that's really up to you. But if you want to get hired, I can teach you how to be successful. If that's the goal right now to get hired, great. Follow that. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/blog. Okay, good question, Carolyn. Still have a couple minutes. Okay, I'm trying to focus in on sales questions specifically. So if I'm skipping your question, it's not sales related. I'm scrolling. Here's a question. Okay, William says, oh no, he was responding to somebody. Yes, if you're looking for sales leads, okay, I'm going to give you guys access to, boom. Okay, if you guys are looking for shipper leads, right? Manufacturer leads within your freight niche, you can sign up for free with no credit card and you can get access to some amazing data. I did an entire demo on this. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads. Okay. Now, that is called Apollo and you can sign up for free. And literally within 60 seconds, you can be searching leads, right? And finding leads, finding shipper leads in your specific niche. So yeah, so if you guys want to sign up for that, I've had so much great feedback from people that saw that demo and signed up for the free. They were shocked that they didn't have to put a credit card in. They were shocked that they didn't have to buy anything. There was no contract. There's no, they literally sign up. You can sign up for free forever. You can be a free member forever. Or if there's other services and things that you want, you can purchase those, but it's not required. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay. I've only got 60 seconds, so I got to quit, and I literally got to get out of here. Hugo says, how much should I pay freight agents? Freight agents typically get somewhere between 50 and 70% of the profit. That means if a shipper's paying you $1,000 and you're paying a carrier $800 and there's $200 in gross margin, you're going to pay them 50% of that gross margin. In other words, $100. So I would start new agents at 50%. If they are experienced and they have a book of business, maybe it's 55, maybe it's 60, maybe it's 65. I didn't pay anybody 70, but some people do, right? That's kind of up to you. I focused more on providing value to them on the back end and more tools and resources and training and those things that help them to earn more than the extra percentage, as opposed to the companies that pay a higher percentage and do nothing to support their agents. So that's completely up to you, but that's what I would pay. Cool. Oh, listen, my alarm's going off. You guys can hear it. It's Yoda. He's the, listen. That's my alarm. Listen, thank you guys for being here. Listen, I'm going to say it one more time. Get on the wait list. We are going to be opening up enrollment tomorrow morning. Okay. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. We're going to be opening enrollment. It's going to sell out quick. Get on the wait list. Thank you guys so much for being here. If I didn't get to your question, I will try to come back in to the feed later on and maybe answer some of these questions in the comments. Feel free to continue to type your questions in. Appreciate you guys being here. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week. Be ready tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We're going to go live with the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, the enrollment for Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. Appreciate you guys being here. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you soon.